Coming up today, silver's beating some new highs. Is it time to adjust and start buying put options? With history, we can see that we might be due for a pullback. And earnings season kicks off, and now we can finally see how businesses are doing and sometimes consumer sentiment. First off, we start off with banks. We have a lot to talk about today. We even got Bitcoin beating some new highs once again, beating a record with their weekend close, and just a lot of individual stocks to look at. So we had most stocks in the S&P 500 closed down, especially the SPY, but Nvda is a little bit stronger. We have a media briefing July 16th in Beijing talking about their new chip for the China export. This can bring Nvidia's Chinese market back up and get their money back flowing from China. Potentially, if this chip can get approved to be exported. Basically just a downgraded version of the Blackwell and not as good. We seen a while ago, US blocks AI chips and especially that H20 chip, and Nvidia lost a lot of money. And with their H20 ban, they took a $5.5 billion hit. We've seen this with the last earnings. With that all being said, you can watch Nvidia to the upside a little bit more if this meeting goes well, but if the meeting doesn't go well July 16th, it might go down. But we might have a buy the rumor, sell the news type thing. But with that being said, anticipation to July 16th in 2 days. We might see it go up for the next 2 days, and then it might drop and or keep on going up if the meeting goes well. So keep this in mind for Nvidia overall. We're going to get to some supports and resistance towards the end of the video when we're done covering the news. Last week looked pretty good with the stock market overall. We had Nvidia up 4%. Chip stocks did pretty well. We had AMD up 5%. Broadcom 1.35%, and some other ones doing pretty well. Microsoft and Google also doing good. Meta falling a little bit. But honestly, man, overall, stock market didn't look too bad, but it didn't look good as other weeks. With that all being said, we're still in extreme greed. 75. So people are still buying up stocks like crazy. But keep in mind, before we cover this, the stock market is different this year and it can always change. So take this with a grain of salt. But with that being said, we are on the 14th. So we are probably going to still go up until the 17th. And then we might have a little bit of a pullback. But this is just history. So honestly, keep that in mind. The ending of the month isn't really looking too good, but it doesn't really fall down too much. But it might be time to buy put options at around that 17th. But keep this in mind that the market is going to be different, and keep news, tariffs, and earnings season on your radar. Speaking of earnings, we do start off with some banks. Monday, we got First Banks and some other ones. You can screenshot this list if you guys want. Tuesday, we have Citi, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, JP Morgan, and some other ones before the bell. Wednesday, we got ASML, Bank of America. We have PNC, M&T Bank, and some other banks as well. After close, one thing I'm watching is United, because we seen Delta Airlines last week beat expectations and they restored their full year's guidance. So Delta went up and other airliners went up too. So if United can do well, we can see some uptrend in overall airliners, and watch United Health to the upside as well with this. Watch TSMC, because this can move other chip stocks as well, and this can show how the chip sector is doing in general. Thursday after close, people are probably going to be watching Netflix. Netflix is a big stock and it's moving pretty well. We are in a constant downward trend, but the earnings can make it look a little bit better. We did have a little bit of a spike upwards with Squid Games coming out. And honestly, we can see some better numbers with that. Maybe some more subscriptions. Maybe people are hype about Squid Games and we can see the numbers going up overall. The one way to start making money, become profitable, is learning. I have cheap courses down below that you guys will make your money back within the first trading day. Check them out. First link in the description below. So stock market calendar today, it's not really going to be anything scheduled. So no data is going to be moving the market. So that is pretty chill, honestly. But we have key economic release next week, could sway the Fed rate expectations and market sentiment. Tuesday, July 15th, we have Consumer Price Index, CPI, for June. Core CPI is expected around 2.9%. Higher than expected inflation could kill hopes for July rate cuts, currently at 6% probability. We also have retail sales for June. Bank of America predicts robust spending, 0.2% year-over-year growth, which could boost consumer discretionary stocks. Wednesday, July 16th, of course, we got the Nvidia meeting. Keep that on your radar. We also have PPI. This gauges wholesale inflation, could signal cost pressures for companies. Other data, watch for housing starts and industry production later on in the week for broader economic growth. Inflation data is huge with tariffs in the mix. If CPI or PPI comes in hot, expect treasury yields to spike and stocks to wobble. Especially growth names like tech, retail sales will show if consumers are still spending despite trade tensions. What to watch with this inflation surprise? A lower CPI could revive rate cut hopes, lifting small caps. A higher CPI might hit tech and growth stocks the hardest. Consumer strength, strong retail sales could juice up stocks like Target, TGT, or consumer discretionary ETFs like XLY. We also had Fed Chair Jerome is considered resigning. Honestly, with all the hate that Donald Trump has given him, maybe he's on the verge of resigning because of this. And honestly, maybe he has a good point, but we did get some data and stuff like that come out showing that he lied about certain things, stuff like that. Just isn't really looking too good for him right now. He's not really in a good position, especially how he, did things in the past. It's not really looking too good for him. But with that all being said, he's still doing a good job, but honestly, kind of waiting too long to, cut these rates. And these tariffs aren't really helping because honestly, you really don't know what tariffs are doing. I personally see prices going up. But with that all being said, man, a rate cut could help the markets right now and give us a little bit of a spike. We'll be talking more about Bitcoin, but we have a crypto week coming up and Bitcoin soars past the $120,000 level. One stock that is good to trade is MSTR, and they just released their unrealized profit of $30 billion now, which is insane. They're making a bunch of money. He's saying that he's going to keep on dollar cost averaging, even at the high. That is the best point. And he said if you short the stocks, it's not really looking too good. That means that you hate money. We also have a 50% odd that Bitcoin can hit $150,000 and a 20% odd that it would hit $200,000. These chances are going to change as Bitcoin goes up, of course. But with that all being said, this is kind of insane. And this is just 2025 numbers. Do you guys think that it can hit 150,000 to 200,000 and even 250,000? Comment down below. With that all being said, we did see silver extend surge as strong demand triggers. And it's almost at its 14 years high, which is honestly insane. But Trump and EU and Mexico combined makes up 1/3 of trade. And if they choose to retaliate, whatever that number is, he will add to the 30% tariff, whatever it is. But we do have a 30% tariff on EU and Mexico. People are saying that this is just a gamble basically to get better trades. But with that all being said, keep this on your mind and on your radar. But President Trump tariff policies are keeping the markets on edge. The 90-day tariff pause expired July 9th, with new tariffs 20 to 50% set to hit August 1st unless trade deals are reached. A 35% tariff on Canada was just announced, and EU tariffs are looming. Why it matters? Tariffs could drive inflation and squeeze corporate margins, especially for industry and consumer goods and retails relying on imports. Markets have been resilient, but Friday's dip, S&P 500 down 0.33%, Nasdaq down 0.22% shows nerves. Investors are banking on Trump basically chickening out the taco trade, but if he doubles down, volatility could spike. So make sure to have trade headlines, Trump's True Social, and any retaliation on your radar this week, because that can truly move the markets overall. But some stocks I recommend you guys watch, of course, Nvda, because that meeting is coming out and people might be anticipating the news. And we're way past that $4 trillion market cap, which is insane, 4.02. Do you guys think we can hit 5 trillion by the end of the year? That is kind of insane for Nvda to hit, because if we look at like the previous years, the market cap was not this big and we came up pretty fast. But Nvidia is the AI leader, and AI is what everybody talks about right now, especially robotics, autonomous driving and stuff like that, man. It is getting more and more insane, and we're literally in the AI race right now. But Nvidia, just like Bitcoin, hitting all-time highs day after day, honestly, just breaking some records. And honestly, man, I'm personally watching Nvidia, and I've been watching it for the past 2 weeks, making a decent amount of money off this. And I do recommend you guys watching this as well. Some prices to look at though for Nvidia, especially since we broke up, but we didn't really break up too much, but it's doing better than, other stocks that itch downwards basically. Some prices that I'm looking at is going to be that 166.5. We can break above that, 167.5. Past that, look at that 169. If we can break above that, look at that 170 next. We might be able to hit it this week. You never know. But past that 170, look at 171.5, 175, and that 180 level. Please keep in mind the overall meeting that we're going to be having. Maybe people might not be as hype, and we might have a little bit of a pullback with Nvidia. With that being said, to the downside, look at 164.5, 163, 161.5, and that 160 level flat for Nvidia overall. I do recommend watching this, but honestly, man, TSM is in focus right now. Another key stock, just like with Delta's earnings, we are looking at UHL. If we can beat expectations with this one can also upbeat some more, maybe to that 95, maybe even beating past that 100 if we can beat expectations by a lot. And or if this one doesn't beat, we might see UAL and other airliners go down. So keep this on your radar overall. But let's get to some supports and resistance and some plays. So first one on the list is AMD. AMD is doing pretty good, still holding up pretty strong. It's kind of neutral right now, like how it opened up today. With that being said, look at that 146.5, 147.5, and then all the way up to that 150 level. If we can break above that, look at 151.5 to that 155. To the downside, look at 145.5, 144.5, and then all the way down to that 143 to that 140 level if we do start itching down lower. Next one that is going pretty strong still is Boeing. And Boeing, we did itch down lower, but then we're kind of back to neutral. So to the upside, we are above that 230 level that I was watching to stay above. And since we're still above that, look at that 232, 233.5, and that 235. And then past that 235, look all the way up to that 240 level. To the downside, look at that 230. If we break below that, look at 228.5, 227, 225, and that 220 for Boeing overall. But it is looking pretty strong and not really too bad. For the SPY overall, man, I want to see if we can itch up higher. This is a good day trade stock, but honestly, only if you see that position set up well. I think on Friday, I played it at these lows, the 621 or to the 622 level, and I played it all the way up until the 623.8. Just sold out pretty early just to, secure some money. And it was basically like within an hour, not even like an hour, probably like a 30-minute trade. But it did pretty well, made me a decent amount of money, and I'm probably going to be scoping out the same thing with the SPY and potentially even Nvidia. But if we start itching down lower, you could probably play put options as well. But I honestly, until, the 17th, until we get like secured with that data, and I'm not saying the data is going to be true, but, trading around that data, I might be playing call options. And then if I see a decent pullback and or just some news that hits, that's when you can play put options. But with that being said, Apple isn't really looking too strong still. We did have a little bit of an itch up higher, but we are going down lower below that 210 level. So for today, watch that 210, 211.5, 212.5, 213.5, and break above that. Look at 215 next. To the downside, look at that 208.5, 207.5, 205, all the way down to that 200 level for Apple overall. Next one is the radar is indeed Palantir. It has been moving around that 145 to that 140 range. So watch both of these levels. To the downside, look at that 140. If you break below that, look at 138.5, 136.5, 135, and that 130 level. To the upside, if we break above that 145 level, finally make another breakout. Look at that 147.5, 148.5, and that 150 finally. Honestly, if we do start breaking up above this 145, we do have potential of it hitting that 150, but it might take a couple of days. So please have your patience. Next one is Tesla. It is looking pretty strong, and it did itch up higher, and honestly just looking pretty strong in the short-term trend. And honestly, next level that I'm looking at is that 320. If we can break above that 320, we have strong potential to hit that 325 to that 330, and then next that 340 level. To the downside, if we do start edging down lower, look at that 315, 310, 305, and that 300 level. Below that, look at 295 to that 290. And then if we break below that 290, we might look a little bit more bearish and it might go down even more. So please have your patience with that one. But let's talk about Bitcoin, man, hitting new all-time highs. And we made a decent breakout this weekend, just like we've seen previously, because we kind of just been up and down. And then now we made another breakout with Bitcoin. Honestly, man, it is in a lot of people's reserves. A lot of people are buying it. A lot of people are hyped up about crypto in general and some stocks to trade. Just like we said before, $20 billion unrealized profit, which is insane. Is MSTR a good stock to trade with Bitcoin? And it moves decently well with it. Another one is Coinbase. And one that I personally like to trade is IBIT. It's another ETF, and they have way more money than MSTR into Bitcoin. And we're about to hit that $70 level, which is insane, breaking all-time highs with this one as well. And you can make a decent amount of money in the short term, up or down. You can play it both ways, just see how Bitcoin moves. And honestly, man, the options are relatively cheap. This is why I like to trade this one. Like 3 weeks out, $250, not too bad. Of course, it's going to change soon with that price level, but honestly, I'm just showing you guys what the in the money plays look like, and is looking pretty good. XRP finally hit that $3 level as well. Honestly, I made a short yesterday saying XRP is going to hit $3, and we hit it, which is insane. So XRP is looking pretty decent as well, but honestly, at these levels, I still wouldn't really buy it. I'm probably just going to keep on like sticking to ETFs until we get like a pullback, and or we might not even get a pullback. You never know. But this is just one to have your patience in. You can make a decent amount of money in the short term, of course, if you want to just buy, some coins. But honestly, please have your patience with this one. Next one is going to be Ethereum. We broke past that 3,000 once again, and it is looking pretty strong. And honestly, we might get some momentum to the upside. So there is an ETF, and it is ETHA. And this is just an ETF that moves with Ethereum, and you can buy options with this one as well. But keep this one on your radar as well, because it is pretty cheap too, just like IBIT, and it might move pretty strong, especially if we see some good movements with Ethereum. With all that being said, man, for this week, just keep earnings on your radar, news on your radar, honestly, some data as well. But we are in the earnings season, so earnings can move the stocks as well. And any trade talks like retaliations and or new trade letters coming out can really move the markets, especially with the key sectors like China and Europe. And we did just get a tariff on Europe. So honestly, man, keep this all on your radar overall because that can shift the market. Maybe we can get a good deal with Europe and honestly, maybe a better deal with China. But China, I think, is already directly secured. But with that all being said, man, keep this all on your radar. Good luck trading today. Comment down below what stocks you guys are watching and how much money you guys made today. Good luck trading today, guys. Peace out.